The U.S. economy added 428,000 jobs in the month of April. That beat out the estimates, and the unemployment rate held steady at 3.6%. That is about a 50-year low. But it hasn't quite been enough for Wall Street so far today. A lot of volatility in trading after both the Dow and NASDAQ yesterday posted their worst single-day drop since 2020. So for more on this, and there's a lot to break down, we want to bring in ABC News financial contributor Alexis Christoforous and ABC News Washington reporter Faith Abubey. Alexis, let's start with you. I mean, on the surface, it seems like this would be all good news, but we're seeing mixed results in terms of stocks. What's your takeaway so far?
Well, my takeaway is that the job market continues to be extremely resilient, even in the face of inflation at a 40-year high. We also have this environment now of higher interest rates. But the big challenge for employers right now, I've got two words for you: labor shortage. Still incredibly difficult for employees to find workers right now. And so what they have to do is they have to raise wages to do it. We know, of course, that's inflationary. 11.5 million job openings last month alone, which means there is now 2 open positions for every person out there looking for a job. And the second big challenge, those higher interest rates from the Fed. They not only raise borrowing costs for you and me, but also for businesses. So businesses may respond by hiring fewer people in the future. And if they can't pay for those higher wages themselves, guess what? They're going to pass that along to you and me in the form of higher prices.
And we've already been seeing that for sure. Faith, I know President Biden has been celebrating this jobs report, naturally, saying this is a direct result of his economic plans. But of course, he is acknowledging what Alexis is talking about here. The elephant in the room is inflation, right?
All right, Trevor, the administration is walking a fine line here. How do you celebrate a jobs market that's booming right now while Americans are still feeling otherwise in their personal lives? Inflation is at the highest rate we've seen, as Alexis just said, in 40 years. It's eating into their pocketbooks in the form of high gas prices, supply chain issues that's impacting them at the grocery stores. Their money is not going as far, so they're struggling to pay their bills. So the president acknowledged in a statement today that there is work to be done to address these challenges that American families are facing. He says it's his top priority, but says because of his economic policies, the country is facing these challenges from what he calls a position of strength. Now, whether Americans agree is another discussion, but what we do know right now is that inflation is proving not just painful for Americans, but also a potential political liability for President Biden and the Democrats going into the midterm election.
I mean, with that inflation going up, it seems almost nothing could be done that would change that view. Alexis, you mentioned the Federal Reserve had raised interest rates just a bit before this came out. Does this change anything for the Fed?
Sadly, probably not. Yesterday, we got a half-point rise in the benchmark Fed rate. That's the most aggressive rate increase we've seen since the year 2000. And Fed Chief Jay Powell warned that more large rate hikes are to come. He mentioned yesterday he thought the economy was strong enough to actually withstand a series of aggressive interest rate hikes. And I think this report coming out as strong as it did today sort of reiterates that for the Federal Reserve, that we're in a good position right now and that we could probably absorb these higher rates. The problem is, ask your average person, they'd probably disagree with you. I mean, mortgage rates are now at their highest level in 13 years and expected to move higher because of the actions the Fed's taking.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these numbers, I think if you looked at them at face value, not knowing what's going on in the country, you might think they look pretty good. But I think a lot of everyday Americans are saying that they're really having a hard time with what we're seeing. And Faith, as Alexis is talking about all these issues, and even if you've got, we have more jobs than we have people who can fill them. Unemployment's very low. There's a lot of different issues that the Biden administration has to face here, and his polling has been absolutely brutal when it comes to handling the economy. I mean, is there anything that they could even possibly do to turn that around?
You know, there's so much they can do and so much the president can do in his position. He doesn't really have a lot of control unilaterally to do anything to ease inflation in the short term. The same goes for any president. But we've seen that this administration, where they do have power, they have taken some action. President Biden is on the road today talking about domestic production when it comes to high gas prices. We saw he took steps to release more oil from the U.S. emergency supply. We know from the labor secretary that the president has given that department a directive to do everything they can to bring down inflationary pressures. So they're looking at addressing supply chain issues as well. And they're doing a few things that they think will address this issue, but Americans expect them to do more. Poll after poll show that he's losing public confidence in terms of how voters feel about his ability to address these economic challenges, and Republicans are hammering him. The administration is facing a lot of pushback from Republicans who are saying that these issues are a direct result of President Biden's economic policies, the same ones that the president says is helping the jobs market. Bottom line here, we expect to hear this administration talk more about their solutions in the coming weeks and months as this problem continues.
Alexis, setting aside the game of politics and not looking at this of what's a win, what's good for the president, what's good for Republicans, simply adding jobs is good for the country. What does this tell us about job growth? Whether or not it's good for President Biden or not,
right?
What the direction that the country is heading economically.
I think any way you slice it, this was a very strong report, and it's good news that we're actually adding workers. Do you know that this was the 12th month in a row that employers added at least 400,000 jobs a month? Tremendously robust. I think the question now for the economy is, how much longer can employers continue to do this, especially now that we're going to be in this environment of higher interest rates? Can they afford to keep expanding their payrolls to the extent that they are? And I think the other big question also for President Biden as he looks ahead to the midterm elections is, how much longer is the consumer going to prop up this economy? I mean, just yesterday we heard that eBay, Etsy, Shopify, Wayfair all reported disappointing earnings. People are starting to pull back even their online spending. And that's the first time we've seen that since the pandemic started.
You would think eventually something has to give. Alexis Christoforous joining us here in New York. Great to see you. Faith Abubey in D.C. as well. Great to have you on. There's so much to unpack from just this simple jobs report, but we appreciate both of your time.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.